morning. Good morning. Good morning. Buenos dias. Buenos dias. January 24 of 2022. I can't believe it. And the month is like flying. I mean, good morning, Pastor Dennis. How you doing?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm kind of little happy. I don't know. But anyway,
Okay. Well, I like all that fire in your head there.
my hair. I'm a lioness. I'm a lioness. Anyway, beautiful morning. Beautiful morning. We in the new remodel set here on VT Radio. I mean, you can look at this. This looks so good, and I'm just excited to see how Chris utilized the whole space. I mean, we have a sitting space to interview, so you can sit and have coffee or interview. So it's beautiful. New year, new space, right? And so I wanted to start the morning just welcoming everyone that's watching, listening to us through VT Radio, VT Radio Universal, and tune in 106.5. All our listeners that are listening to us and through Facebook, thank you for watching this morning. I hope you're sitting. I hope you're in your bed still with your coffee watching us here. We're going to talk a little bit about everything that happened last year. What did we learn? What it is that the highlights, what it is that we changed the view of how we look at life and look at each other. We're going to talk a little bit about everything that happened last year, and we want and our expectations for this year, what it is our expectations as a nation, as a community, as a Afro-Latina woman, as a white male pastor. What are our expectations when it comes to this country, you know? And so that is our team today. We're going to talk a little bit about everything today. But first, I'd like to touch a little bit on the news locally and also nationally. I know that in Colorado right now, there's a big fire. We still, for the people that don't believe in global warming, is real. It's here, and we need to start thinking. You know, I think about President Carter when he tried to start. You imagine what we would be if we would have continued with the plan that President Carter had in 1973, 70 something. 75, when he tried to teach the nation, and he warned, and he was living ahead. He was looking at what could happen to our environment if we continue doing that. Was in 1973, 75. That is crazy. And of course, they call him crazy. He lost the election. And we're still here, and the United States is the most powerful country in the world, one of them. But when it comes to global warming, we are behind. We are very behind. So we need to be mindful and look what's going on here in our country and also around the world when it comes to the environment. The other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about the vaccines and the COVID. I know a lot of people are fatigued and a lot of people are tired of listening to the vaccine, the COVID. Please go vaccinate yourself and get your booster and do everything that we need to do necessary to get into this new normal. So I just encourage you to just go, you know, I was thinking about me when you have a baby. The baby gets a set of vaccine when they just born, and then you wait a couple more months and they get, and it protects our kids. So why would we not do this now to protect ourselves and our other people and community and people that are really have assistant medical problems too. We are protecting them too. So also, I wanted to send my condolence to Doris. Her husband died, I believe Wednesday night. So condolence to you, to the Green family. Prayers to the family and to you. We are here supporting you. You know that I'm here supporting you. That anything you need or want, or you just want to talk, just give me a call. Also, I don't like to talk about celebrities, but this is just, it hurts. It hurts to Regina King lost her son and suicide, 26 years old. And the suicide rate is going up more and more. So I just can't imagine somebody losing the child is unbearable. I think I just don't know, how do you live like that? How do you live losing a child? That is just, crazy. So I don't know her. She's a celebrity, but my heart is just go out to her. I wouldn't wish that to even my worst enemy, the loss of a child. I just don't know.
And we also have the those people who are affected by the volcano.
Yes.
You're talking about.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
Which
that
of course
little island.
We have a lot of details.
Yeah, that little island, and we had the tsunami. We had the tsunami alert when it happened because it's in the Pacific.
Well, isn't there like 1,000 islands or something in that vicinity? So
it's little
I'm
islands
sure
in the
more
Pacific.
than just Tonga that was affected, but I haven't heard about any of the other islands.
And Japan too had an earthquake. I think yesterday in the morning.
Yes, that's true.
Yes,
that's true.
Yes, Japan, and the thing about Japan and earthquakes is that they have that nuclear. They do. What is it they have that the last time they had an earthquake is just the gas or something? I better not even say anything because I don't remember exactly what it is. But yeah, Japan had a earthquake yesterday too.
Okay. Yeah. I think they have a nuclear facility there somewhere.
Yes, I was thinking that. Also, so I'm looking at my. So I wanted to start a conversation about me and you, because me coming from such a different background from you, I was thinking about that yesterday. Me being Afro-Latina, Afro descent from a Spanish country, our view of being a woman, our life and stuff is so different. But at the same time, for me and you to sit here and talk is I mean, this is what God intended all this time is to bring people from different views from different countries to sit down, and we don't have to agree on everything, because that's the whole point of growth. But I was thinking, two people that come completely from different worlds, and we're sitting here doing this show. This is great. Is amazing. And the way you, as a white male born and raised here in the United States, look at the world is very different than how I look at the world. But at the same time, we join in forces and trying to somehow impact our communities by just looking at us and doing what we're doing, right? What do you think about that?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. My view of the world has radically changed from what I grew up in. I've realized that there are so much more. There's so much more out there than we can experience in our little world. there are so many different perspectives. There's so many different struggles and pains. And I think it's kind of like marriage. You've got women from Mars and men from Venus, or is it just the opposite? Probably the opposite. That come together in marriage and have to try to make a life with two completely different ways of looking at the world, and two completely different ways that people treat you. I mean, sexual differences are often downplayed, but they're very real, and how people view us in the different sexual roles is very different. There's so many dynamics there, but I really believe that's what God intended. God intended diversity to be able to make life fun and interesting and exciting and challenging, so that we can learn to value and appreciate each other for those differences and bring some unity in all that diversity.
And more than anything is, you said something, value. Value is number one when it comes to God. Value another human being, value the environment, and know that we are administrators of this earth. We hear how did you administrate your business, your home.
Yeah.
It is what God wanted us to do when he created the world, thinking mainly on us, like me creating a legacy for my or path for my son and his kids. It's the same thing God did when he created this world. He created it exactly for us to give value and to know that we are connected to every single thing. I mean, even to the roaches that I don't like, I am somehow connected to even the roaches. They have their function here. They have their purpose here. They have their job to do here. And we should not minimize or devalue anything that was created by God. Nothing. Nothing.
It's going back to creation. I mean, God created two diverse things at the same time that are going two completely different directions, and he called it good. Those two different things going two different directions is he created diversity. The 6 days of creation, he told us, he created the sun and the moon and everything in between. He created the light and the dark and everything in between. He created the animals that walk on the earth and fly in the sky and swim in the rivers or the water and everything in between. We tend to read that really flatly, but that was a summarizing of tremendous diversity right there. And he was proud of his diversity.
He was.
Then he called man to play a role in helping bring all of that into some type of unity. And like you said, us sitting here talking from two completely different worlds, that is crucial.
Yes.
To bringing unity and all that diversity.
Yes.
That diversity is wonderful, it's brilliant, it's exciting. It's challenging,
and
and especially in the political climate, and right now we have to remember that.
And I was thinking, and we spoke yesterday. I was thinking about nature. I think about nature, and I use nature as a perfect example. When we look at the trees and the flowers, I like trees. I like to look a lot at the trees. and I look at the different, how do you call that, that covers the tree trunk, the different,
The bark?
yes, the different texture,
Uh-huh.
the trees have, and I said, this exactly same thing that God did with flowers, animal. They're unique, they're distinctive, and they're not one better than the other one. They have their function here to do what they need to do, but there's nothing that is better. All of it is good, like you said. All of it has this function, like you said. Everything was created with his function, and it was good. He said everything. This is good. This is good, he said. So let's get into the recap. I'm looking at one of the first things I'm looking at this list, because we have a little list here that Pastor Dennis put together, is Facebook and Instagram. And that is a big one. That is a big one. Media across history has a lot to do with how we view and see the world and how we look at other people and other countries. I mean, I like this this writer. Her name is Chichimanda Naobi. I'm gonna kill her name, but she's from Nigeria. And she tells this story, the single story. And she got famous telling this story at TED Talk. And the view that Americans and the West have about Africans, that they don't think that they have books or libraries. They don't think that, they just think that there are white people running in the wild with no half clothes and in the jungle. And that has to do with a lot of media. That has to do with the way we present and portray the other people, culture, and everything. And media is big across the world. I mean, it's big across the time. I remember that people got killed and burned. Special woman got burned and called witch because of just what you started something. It just went, we call it viral now, but even in little cities, they would start rumors about something and it would spread out of control that you wouldn't know what was true and what was not true. And people got hurt and killed because of that. Media is core when it comes to the way we see life and people.
Well, I think a lot of what happens in modern media is not so much what they portray, but what they don't communicate. When we don't pay much attention to Africa, and we've got National Geographic and Travelog shows from 30 years ago about Africa, and that's the only thing we've got, and that's all the people see. They don't notice what year those things were created. They just look at it. And if that's the only representation they've got, they don't know that things have changed.
And I don't think they want people to know. I remember with my ex-husband, he used to say, why do I need, how does that help me knowing about other countries? And how does that help me knowing where they're located geographically? I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah.
And it's this notion here in this country that United States is the center of the universe, and we really don't need to know anything about other countries because we are like the best country in the world. We don't need to know, and that is in the whole system. It is an education system. There's things that I was taught in Panama about the United States that a lot of Americans don't even know about the United States. So is this notion that we don't need to know about other culture and other people. And the little bit that we know is not sometimes that good.
What we tend to forget is there is not enough time in any classroom or any show to represent adequately everything that's real or everything that's happened. And so anytime there is a class that kids take or there is a show on TV, they have to pick a nucleus that they're shooting for and only show the things that support whatever that is that they're presenting. That doesn't mean that there's not a completely different side of it that they didn't even pay attention to. And it's true in our classrooms. The problem is not that we're necessarily being lied to, but that we're not being given the rest of the information. And so that, unfortunately, is almost like a lie.
Well, withholding information is a lie. I don't know. For some people, they consider it a lie. I mean, I don't know.
But withholding implies that it was offered to them to show it, and that oftentimes isn't necessarily what's happening. They just don't care enough to seek out the other information. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'm thinking, and we talked about this yesterday. I was thinking the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. One of the things that I started to realize is that the Republican Party has a corporation, a media corporation, not only one that's supporting them 100%. That one thing with the Republicans versus the Democratic Party is that the Republicans, they get a narrative and it goes, everybody follow it, repeat it so much that eventually people start believing it. We have a media corporation that is throw something out. Then we have the elected government people that also support it. And then we have they are very disciplined. They don't skip a beat. They don't go out of line. And is almost I don't even know I know how to explain. Everybody sit down and said, this is what we're going to put out there. And we're going to put it and we're going to repeat it through the news, and it almost becomes to some people real. You hear it so much that it becomes real.
Yeah.
So, and then the Democrats, they, as much as they also have the media too, some media outlets that supported them, but it's not like the Republicans. The media for the Democrats, I feel like they question them more. They are, and even in the same party, and even the same Democrats here, and the people that are Democrats question and uphold the Democratic Party in a different standard than the Republicans. I don't know if I'm explaining myself.
Right. Well, it's more than just one corporation. Besides Fox, I'm trying to think of the name of the corporation that owns our local radio TV station, Como News. Mm-hmm. Como News is also owned by a more radically Republican entity than Fox is. Mm-hmm. That corporation, I don't know why I can't think of it right now, but that corporation buys up mainly TV stations in rural areas. So there are whole states and there are whole regions of the country that have only
That's the only thing to listen
that
to.
perspective, and we wonder why our country has become so polarized, because those people in those rural areas, they only hear one side of everything. And they never hear the other side unless they go to the internet. I have a friend in Great Falls, Montana, that she only has perspective because she goes to the internet and gets the shows that are not available in her market. You know, all they get piped is ultra right stuff. You know, and I mean, I have a sister and brother that live in Bozeman, Montana, which is probably the most cosmopolitan area of Montana. But, you know, they're both alt-right. And I have to remind myself, you know, I have to give them some grace because they don't know the other side of the story. Mm-hmm. They only hear one side. They don't even know that there is another side that's out there. So I know in my Facebook posts, I realize that I've got a lot of people that I'm connected with on Facebook that live in those markets that only hear the one extreme. And so I try to provide other perspectives so they know, at least from my Facebook, hopefully they're not so offended by what I post that they run away. But you know, just making them aware that there's another way to look at stuff.
And the other thing is that we talk a lot about how to respect other people's opinion, even if you don't agree with them. You know, and I had to learn that because for me, I used to go really black or white. And I realized that as I grow older, nothing is black and white. There's nothing black and white. There's that middle where you have to look, you cannot just look at people as you look at them. There is something, there's a story, there is a environment that they was raised that created what they feel and think, right? So I used to look at things white and black, and nothing is white and black, nothing. But I was thinking what you were saying, because my brother, he lives, hello Dennis, I don't think he's watching. He lives in Florida, and Florida is crazy. I mean, as you hear the stories, and he tells this to my mom, my mom would tell me, and I would be like, where is he getting these news, you know? So I don't know if there is choices in this state, or this is the only thing they listen to, or it's just there. So I just don't know that you would not, in this time of day, you wouldn't have choices.
Well, there are choices when it comes to cosmopolitan areas, like the Miami-Dade County has a lot of Democrats. So clearly there is exposure to different perspectives there. Otherwise, you wouldn't see that. But the fact that they've got such a crackpot governor, an idiot for a governor, you know that they're not getting enough diverse perspectives.
And
they're
I think
being inundated with stupidity.
And I think he's very dangerous too. He is dangerous when they say he's trying to get $6 million to form a police force for the elections.
a private police force that he controls.
Wow.
That's what's scary.
That is.
He didn't like the fact that the National Guard can be pulled by the federal government that doesn't agree with him to do things that he doesn't agree with. So he wants a police force in Florida that is at his beck and call.
And
that can
the thing
probably
that
fight the federal government if they need to.
The thing that I don't understand is that Florida is such a melting pot, because when you think of Florida is little Cuba. Now today is little Puerto Rico, because there's so much migration from Puerto Rico into Miami that it surpassed. They feel that it surpassed even the Cubans that are there right now.
Right.
And these, especially, and a lot of Colombians too. A lot of Colombianos are there, but the fact that we are coming from countries that experience that, and that these people there cannot see the writing on the wall and see what exactly, and they support this. I am like shocked. I'm like, okay, let's give it to the Americans, because they have never experienced stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But people that come from other country that can see the writing in the wall and where we're going towards, we're going to support this governor. I don't get it. I just like.
Well, remember communities like Cuba. Those who were displaced and had to move to Florida, they were the aristocracy. They were the ones that
had the money.
That had money, that had,
and there was
land,
in a governor
that had all that stuff,
mm-hmm.
and it was the commoners that took all that away from them. So they have that expectation that there is a similar movement in the U.S. and they just took from Cuba and translated it into Republican Democratic rhetoric. So they don't see it like you and I do. They see it from the fact that they lost everything to this force, and this force, instead of being a Cuban force, it's a universal force. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I think sometimes people, when they come from other countries, they transport their politics from their country of origin to this country. And even though the rhetoric is racial, I mean, Trump was blatantly racial in his communication. A whole lot of people from those racial groups
supported him
because they brought their class conflict from their other country into the U.S. and turned his racial statements in their own heads. They twisted it into a class reference. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
it's bizarre, but from our perspective, it's bizarre. From theirs, it's natural.
Yeah, Miami and Florida, I would go visit, but I'm not really crazy about the state.
No,
I really don't. I probably shouldn't say that. The Cubans.
We see the same thing happening in Texas.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it's crazy to see.
Yeah. To
see that there is a lot of Spanish people that live in Texas that agree with President Trump. I was like, this is just crazy.
Yeah.
It is crazy. Now we're looking at we're looking at John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock, and they have an election this year, right? The two of them have a election this year. They are. I know
Oh,
Raphael Warnock.
no,
He is.
no, they won last year.
Mhm.
They were the ones that took a Republican seat for the first time and turned it Democratic.
But they don't have to run this year too in the midterm.
Senate doesn't have to run that often.
Oh, okay.
So no, they're in good shape.
And I'm looking at the certification of the voter suppression. So I was reading, I watched a documentary of the 14th Amendment. It's crazy. I love it. Why it is that we don't talk a lot about the two amendment that I hear all the time, people using it in the little, taking it out of the little book bag, is the First and the Second Amendment. But the 14th Amendment, I love it. I was reading about it and everything, even the speech and the gun, is all of it is based on the 14th Amendment. And I said, why it is that we don't speak a lot about that amendment? It was, I think, 1826 or 1886. I'm not sure. But I was reading about it and I thought, look at this. And we still trying to suppress. We're still denying just even what Mitch said the other day. The African Americans and the Americans, and the 14th Amendment talk exactly about that.
Yeah.
That people that were born here, doesn't matter if you what race, you absolutely are completely become American.
Right.
And
the problem with the 14th Amendment is we've got the issue of national versus state rights. And the Confederacy was all about state rights. Now, they're still in the Union, but initially they, because the North won, Africans were able to vote and gain office and all kinds of stuff, and it was a radical change. But the problem is getting to the federal still has to go through state laws. So they created state laws that limited the impact of the federal, which impacted the impact of the 14th Amendment. Does that make sense?
yes, but I was thinking that on that point, I was thinking that on the 14th Amendment, we and everything, we just going backwards. We are going backwards. I don't even know how it is that we are just going. There is a lot of countries that are going forward, but also there is countries that the supremacy is big, is rampant in a lot of countries in Europe too. Germany is one that they had to really stop a group of people that are trying to do the same thing that is happening here in the United States. So there's a lot of groups, supremacy groups that are being created this time. So I feel like we going in circle when it comes to voting rights, all a classification of human being, and this where we a group of here in the United States, a fort. I think the media, that's why I said the media is so important, because the media will make it look like half of the United States is really a group of people that support the Republicans, but it's just a fort. It looks like a lot, but it's just a fort of 70 something thousand people is not half of the United States. It's a fort of the United States. So media has to do a lot with it, but how do we?
But regardless of what the population represents, the Republicans know that it's not the population that matters. It's how many voters that vote that is what really matters. So that's why voter suppression is most of their focus. If they can keep 50% of the population away from the polls, they're good.
And the sad part of it is that this group of people think that they just been used as a pawn. Mm-hmm. They've been used as a pawn, and the people, the Republican Party is right now has an addiction of power and money, and they're really using a group of people. Sadly, we look at West Virginia, we look at all these countries, Alabama, Mississippi, all these states. I said country. These states were they poor. Mississippi is one of the poorest states in that area in the South. Mm-hmm. And they don't realize that they are being used as a pawn to mm-hmm. keep power and have wealth, So how did you change people's mindset? Or even not even change it. I don't want to change it. I just want you to enlighten you and see that you are being used. Mm-hmm. It's you been poor. It's the South that support for years and years and years. Texas, all these that is support Republicans that are Republican red states. And they poor. You think they would sit and say, wait a minute, let me stop. Because I've been voting for the same people, the same party, and there's nothing changing. Mm-hmm. So this is more of a tribalism than anything, because mm-hmm. I can't believe that I will continue doing the same thing, voting for the same people and remain the same.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it when we were talking about the next generation and their perspectives on politics, I think that speaks a lot into what we're dealing with. I really believe that what those people who are not engaged are hearing, they're not happy with what's happening, but they're hearing that the Democrats are trying to destroy their culture, even if they're supposedly supposed to be helping them. They're trying to destroy their culture, so that's worse than helping them, because nobody's really trying to help them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's crazy.
So they're, even though 75% don't like what the Republicans are doing, they've been able to, the Republicans have been able to paint the Democrats into extreme roles, to lie about them, to tell vicious stories about them, to make ideas about them stick that shouldn't be able to stick because there's no truth in them.
And I'm thinking that because they have this universe of media that support them, do you hear it? The more you hear it, the more you say it, people believe it. But I don't understand how would you, the poorest states in the United States are red states, and they continue doing the same thing. You like,
I know.
you know, you continue doing the same thing, and you not moving forward. So we are
Yeah.
talking about these. We have one that is Jewish, and we have one that is black. And that was a good win for, I wanted to say for the Democratic Party, but I wanted to say for us, because again, looking at diversity, looking at these two men, one black pastor, a Baptist pastor, and then we have the other one that is Jewish. That is what this is, the United States of America. That is how legislation should look like. That is how we should have people of all sorts of background come and sit on the table, and have you have people representing you. So that is what we should and will want to see when we see people legislating and governing for us. And I think this thing about having white old men, it needs to represent the majority of the country. So I love when I saw that these two men won those seats for Georgia.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that it's any more about necessarily about white old men. It has to do with that. It's about that white old men culture. Because there are a lot of minorities that have learned how to do well in that white old man's culture by embracing it. And by being white old men in every other respect other than the color of their skin. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. And we spoke about that too yesterday.
And some women that do the same thing, So it's less about a racial gender thing nowadays than it is about a dominant or controlling culture, which is what the anti-racist movement has brought forward. Is that the main thing we're dealing with is a culture.
But I'm thinking forever and ever, this is the people that are governed the United States has been white old men.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. And both parties. We look at the Democrats and we look at the Republicans, and it's changing a little bit more on the Democrat side, but and the Republicans throw that little token in there just to say, we have people of different race and stuff. It really doesn't matter because nobody can get out of line in the Republican Party. Everybody has to follow and march the way Mitch wants them to march. But forever, this has been the culture of the people that, and I almost feel, I would say, maybe not, is my personal opinion, like an apartheid, because you have minority governing the majority, because the majority is more diverse, but we have a group of people that are becoming more and more less by numbers running the country.
Yeah, well, that's true. It's a convoluted situation. The fact that we have been able to get, I'm trying to remember what that black female's name is that is blasting Black Lives Matter. I have to remember what her name is.
I don't, I don't, I don't recall that, but I would look her up now that you're saying.
Yeah,
I have black people. I had a couple black friends that told me, again, based on religion, they told me that one of the ladies, one of the founders, she's gay, and I said, what does that has to do with whatever? I don't even know why you don't like this person because she's gay. Like, really, that to me is, I don't know. And again, we're going to the church now. We don't going into a little bit of the church.
Right. Well, bringing up that matter, a lot of these groups are criticized for being Marxist. Did you know that the earliest Pentecostals were considered Marxist too?
Interesting.
Because the earliest Pentecostals were very pro equal rights, very pro gender equality.
Mm-hmm.
They were pro labor rights. They were very opposed to the extremes of capitalism, and it was the of all the religious groups, the Pentecostals were the primary movers to make the New Deal a reality. We talk about today the evangelicals having political influence. At the beginning of the 1900s, the Pentecostals apparently had a lot of sway because we really helped change a lot of things. Pentecostals did,
And I think across, it doesn't matter what religion it is. This thing about gay and the abortion is like fresh meat just to throw in every. I have noticed not only the Christian community, it's not only the Catholics, is other religions that. And I'm going to just say for the ones that I know, because I can say all of them are like that, but that use this as a control and manipulation mechanism to rile up people in the faith community.
Yeah.
I absolutely, I said, I can't believe that you will think that the God that I serve and love will feel that way about the people that he created. And again, he purposely would intentionally create all these different, I said gray areas, but they're not gray, in order, again, because of diversity, not just diversity when it comes to race and color, but gender, when it comes to gender, when it comes to making choices. He created this for us to teach us how to learn to live with each other and not tolerate. I don't like that word, tolerate. And not even accept you. There's nothing that you have to accept about me. I am who I am. That's it. So there's nothing that you have to accept, but denying and devaluing this existence of other people based on their race and gender is just crazy to me, and you as a woman, as a gay, as a black person, fighting all the time just to want to be valued. I just want to be valued, and seeing it can be traumatic,
Traumatic.
Yes. So And we have the religion community, most of it, I won't say all of them because I don't know all religions, created this notion that, and why people are gay, there's different reasons, you know.
Yeah.
Why a woman wants to have an abortion, that's different reasons for her to. I was talking to this lady, she has 3 kids today, and she is pregnant. She said, I can't have this baby. I just can't have another child. It's just too expensive for me and my husband to do that. You know, when you look at the word pro-choice and pro-life, pro-choice means you have a choice. You have a right to have a choice.
You have the right to evaluate what is going to be best in your situation for everybody involved, including the baby.
So, again, you want this lady to have another child, but when the child is here, what happens? Because we can see that in the third world countries. We can see these women that have a lot of kids because there's no control. There's no, you know, and they live in poverty, you know. So, I mean, it's okay. If you want me to have the baby, fine. But when the baby's here, who is going to help take care of that baby?
Right.
What's going to happen with that baby?
The problem in those kinds of situations with not allowing an abortion in that type of scenario, a lot of times when you're in poverty, you don't have access to health care. You don't have access to good eating practices. You don't have knowledge of either one of those things and how they can benefit your life. You're shut out of so much. And some of them are going to die because of that. And some of them are going to get angry and kill a lot of other people because of that. So you're telling me that saving one life is better when the potential of the number of people dying because that one child lived has just grown enormously? You know, what about the people who are already drawing breath? We want potential for a child who hasn't drawn a breath yet, but we don't want to give the people who have already drawn breath the potential.
Yes, that is crazy. And I was thinking, the way I see it is that whether I think is right or wrong, is God created us with free will, you know, and whether and one thing that you said that is key, it has to do with poverty. A lot of abortions are gonna happen with women that have wealthy women that have money. They it's been like that forever. Right. You know, rich women that or their kids, or in the past years, they would just send their daughters to other countries to have abortion.
Exactly.
They would pay privately to get abortions. So the only thing
that the abortion laws affect are the poor people that don't have any options. Because now they have less options.
You know, it's the rich woman and rich family, they want an abortion, they're gonna have it.
Absolutely.
You know, so and I feel like we're going backwards. They call me this week. They call me from Planned Parenthood. I support them. and they're calling to ask for money, and I was like, there's nothing you can do. What are you gonna do with this money? I mean, we're gonna have the Supreme Court in the summer is gonna decide what it is, and everybody is on pins and they biting their nails because we feel and we know that we think where this is gonna go. But I was telling the guy that called me, I said, why you guys need more money? I mean, what can you do with this money? Because it's already there in the Supreme Court, just waiting for them to come out with a dissent or whatever they call that.
Well, I don't know what they can do, but they might be able to pull a rabbit out of a hat. Who knows? It's hard to know. Planned Parenthood needs support, period. Because abortion is not the pillar of Planned Parenthood. Teaching people to plan out their role as a parent, that is what Planned Parenthood is about. And that will always have value, regardless of what the peril of abortion is.
And we didn't. I wanted to talk a little bit about, because our time is gone. I don't know, as you look at the list, there's anything in particular that you would like to talk. I would like to talk about the inequality and how is it exposed more than ever to this pandemic. We know it existed, we know it's there, but we can see the difference between how the poor and the middle class is dealing with the pandemic and the rich people. That is probably one of the things I would like to talk to, because we are running out of time. What it is,
well, when there is a power structure that's controlled by the wealthy, there's a term for that. It's called an oligarchy. Are you familiar with that term?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We are classified as an oligarchy. It doesn't matter what version of political system we claim to have, whether it's communist or republic or Democrat or whatever else is out there. Okay. An oligarchy uses whatever rules exist to their benefit, and they still control everything. And when that happens, if somebody's going to lose money, it's definitely not going to be them.
No.
It's going to be the people with the least choices. And that's a reality. We have to fight the idea that haves cannot have without there being have-nots. And so, because the idea that haves can only have because others have not, that is putting a price tag on some people's heads and saying some people are more valuable than others.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the reasons why Calvinism is so dangerous, because Calvinism teaches that God created some people to go to heaven and some people to go to hell. So the people who were created to go to hell, why should we bother with them? Why should anybody care about them? It creates not a real generosity, but a selective generosity. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And when in Christianity, that's a huge issue. Because if I really believe that God has predestined some to go to hell, then there's no hope of me ever being a truly loving person. It's already been the prospect of a loving community has already been taken out of my mind by my theology.
I would like to have a show about hell and heaven. I know it would be controversial because I remember my late ex-husband said something to me. He said, and he questioned God a lot. That at one point it was annoying for me, but then I had a pastor, lady pastor, said, no, this is a good thing. God is to be questioned. He is to be questioned. He wants you to question him. Mm-hmm. But anyway, he said to me one day, he said, if God is so loving, then how does loving God, you live, say, the most people live 80 something years old, and you get punished for eternity. He said, that doesn't even make sense. That doesn't even make him loving. And right. I when he said that, I was like, well, he does have a point. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what you do. You gonna pay for eternity? He said, that is crazy. You know,
that the idea of hell is what turns it was what turns Christianity from a legitimate practice into an instrument of the powerful. Do you understand? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because the powerful then can get to determine who are going to hell, quote unquote. I mean, they can't make somebody go to hell, but they can create an environment where that person is far more likely to choose hell or the consequences of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So,
no, I agree. This issue had, because I've been studying a lot of church history. This issue has been an issue all through church history, where those who are big on hell, a place of torment and punishment, are on one side, and the people who believe God is a God of love are on the other side. And when we talk about this, we're not talking about that there are not consequences for things. It's not that anybody believes that people can get away with anything and be celebrated for it. That's not the concept. But punishment is redemptive. Hell is not. Hell is vindictive. Do you understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. There is an idea that exists that God is trying to redeem people, and so he will turn them over to whatever their evil hearts intend, but it's for redemptive purposes. Not because it's trying to be punitive or vindictive.
I think there's that grace also that comes into it.
Yeah.
That is, you create something that you know isn't perfect, and then when they do the imperfect things that you created them with, then you're gonna punish them for life. It's like, you know, we're not perfect, right? He created us perfect, not perfect. And when I do something that is not perfect, you're going to punish me for life? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
No, it doesn't make sense. But I wanted to talk about President Biden and the Democratic Party before we leave, because we have very little bit time. Where do you see this? There is so much. I said the other day I was thinking, Biden, you need to hire me. I need to work for you because I defend President Biden so much, and I think people are so hard, and him. They feel that they act like he's been president for 100 years.
Right.
They act like, and they say like he doesn't know what he's doing, and he's been in for 100 years. I said, but he's not president. He's not been president for 100 years. Yeah. Look at what he walking into. Yeah. Look that he still, a group of people here in the United States think he's an illegitimate president. Mm-hmm. Trump stalled for him not to get into the White House. Nothing was ready when they got in there. So how do you see the Democratic Party and the split that is in the Democratic Party right now? Because with Kristen Sinema, they sanctioned her, so and most likely they're not gonna nominate her for running in 2024. And I think the Democrats, they were counting and saying, well, we have majority, barely the majority, but now that is with these two senators that not really, they are Republicans. They act more like Republicans. But what do you think about?
Well, there's a lot to be said there. We have this idea in the U.S. that if everything is above board and everything is right, everything will fall together, and everything will come back to cohesiveness and peace. That's not how life works. That's a fantasy, but nonetheless, there is a lot of that expectation, which is, I believe, a lot part of the reason why Biden is being criticized the way he's being criticized, is because, well, we brought him in here, we did our part, but there's still conflict. So clearly he's not doing a good job. What? You know what I'm saying? The fact that there are people who are going to hate him regardless. I mean, it's like when Obama was in office.
Oh yeah.
There were people that it didn't matter what he did.
No.
He was going to fail. Mm-hmm. It was important, and it was determined that he would fail, and they spent hours spinning perspectives that would paint him as a failure. And they've done the same thing with Biden.
And I think for Biden, he thought that probably wasn't going to happen because he's been in government for a long time. And he has the advantage that he is white and old, and he's been there forever. So I don't know, I think he was naive to think that there was not going to be a pushback like with President Obama.
I don't know that he was naive to that, but what's the point of bringing that up when you've got a slim chance just to succeed anyway? Why not push all the energy to build a momentum of success? Mm-hmm. And if he had brought that up and held that and made that position known, we got all kinds of wonderful legislation that got passed before these two idiot Democrats decided to switch party alliances. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So, those things wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't have seen so much success. He's already done some amazing stuff.
Yes.
In the short time he's been there. But that is not enough. It's not his record that's a failure. It's the fact that the momentum that he's had is beginning to falter.
No,
and we knew that was going to happen.
Well, I got a minute. We have the timekeeper telling me I got a minute. So what was the highlight for you of this last year? And what do you expect for this year? And we're going to close with that.
I think the highlight for me was the normalization that Biden achieved. He took a federal government that had a high percentages of offices that were completely vacated. And we were yet to see the failure they were going to produce by being vacated. He got them filled in record time and turned that ship around amazingly fast. I take my hat off to Biden. There's few men that could have pulled off the rescue that he pulled off. And maybe we should have experienced that failure before he pulled it off. But even if we did experience that failure before he pulled it off, most Americans don't know how to do math. They don't know how to evaluate an economy and what any action, how likely one single action has to affect something in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or a year.
Okay, and it went so fast. But thank you.
My point with that is that we live in a fantasy. We think as soon as somebody walked into the office, everything that the previous president started, they didn't. The new president didn't do. Even if he only turned around once in office, he's automatically guilty of anything that the previous president did.
Well, thank you, Pastor Dennis. I see you next
Bless
month.
you.
Next month is God willing. And thank you for sitting this morning with me. Thank for all the listeners. VT Radio Universal 106.5. Tune in, my Facebook. Buenos días, Cristina. Gracias por estar mirando. Y bueno, que tengan un bonito día, un domingo con neblina, pero que tengan un feliz domingo. God bless, and thank you, Pastor Dennis. Have a wonderful day.
You.
Okay.
You as well.
Right.
Vacunarte es la opción para tú estar mejor. Y si todos lo hacemos, ya sin COVID estaremos. Vacunarte es hoy la mejor elección. Es seguro y sin costo. Vacunado yo estoy.
Yeah.
Este es el momento. Recibe tu regalo de protección contra COVID-19. Te protegerá contra cualquier otra variante. Es gratis, fácil, segura y no se requiere identificación. Encuentra tu vacuna en www.vaccinelocator.doh.wa.gov o llama al 1-800-525-0127. Mensaje traído por el Washington State Department of Health.